success is not something that comes by accident. Nobody who gets where they want to go, whatever that means to them, their own definition of it, it doesn't just happen by accident. The people that get there, and this concept came from Warren Buffett. He basically talked about cars and how they relate to people in the sense that the horsepower in the car is really your talent. If you have a car with 500 horsepower, somebody else has a car with 1,000 horsepower, you're never going to change how much horsepower is in the car. That's the amount of talent you've been given. But the person that has 1,000 horsepower but doesn't examine their own habits, their own daily routines, their own behavioral patterns on a weekly basis, or bi-weekly, every other week, if they don't look at that and determine that they can improve here by eliminating this, what is this habit? How did I start doing this? And this could happen on all levels. I want you to know, I come at it from a music point of view because that's what I do. But specifically, like a template, for example, for a lot of people, every song they mix, they pull up everything from scratch. And this could apply to any field, but in music, if you're mixing, you might pull up stuff every time you set up your buses, every time you set up you do it every song. Just changing that habit to now use a template every song you mix, that'll save you time every day. It could only be 30 minutes a day, 40 minutes a day, but all that time adds up. All of it adds up. So what I want you to realize is by something as simple as that, by not changing the habit, and first to change it, you have to evaluate what you're doing. That's why I say on a weekly basis, look at everything you're doing. Everything you're doing is a choice that you are making in order to then define your success or your future or your career. It defines your path. Every choice you make defines your path. So if you are somebody who has decided that they're not going to use a template, you've now decided to have less time, which means you can do less, which means now you only get so far. This is the same thing with anything, especially bad habits, like needing the ability to, you decided at some point that you work better all day when you have a cup of coffee and look through mindless, YouTube reels or look for 2 hours before you start your day. At some point in your life, you decided, this is who I am. I'm somebody who drinks coffee and looks at reels for 2 hours before I start work. Well, now all of a sudden, you've also decided to have 2 hours less every day for your whole future, your whole life, your whole career. You made that a tattoo that now you think defines you. Far too often do we not look rationally at our habits in order to get more out of the car we're driving. In other words, if the talent is us, and that's how many horsepower we have, that's the unchangeable part. That's the talent. But how much you get out of that car. Somebody could have a Honda Accord and get, only has 300 horsepower, whatever it is. I'm just making stuff up because I'm not really a car guy per se. But you take that car with 300 horsepower and you get 300 horsepower out of it, which, nobody gets all they can get because you could always improve something. But let's say you get 290, 280. That person's always going to far surpass the guy with the Ferrari, 1,000 horsepower, much more talent, but he's only getting 100 out of it because he never examines what he's doing all the time. That's wasting his time. That doesn't make any rational sense, that he didn't put the thought into actually, what can I cut out? What am I doing that I decided I need to do that's a part of my life, that defines me? All these things that make it where you don't want to change it. That's why I use these terms, because if you think something defines you, you're way less likely to change it. If you think you need this because it helps whatever, you all of a sudden decided now you need this, which is going to define your life. What I venture to say is consider whether you do or not on a weekly basis. And realize that if your life isn't going the way you want, if you're not getting the most out of your days and you think you're still where you don't want to be and you want to be somewhere else, consider the fact that you might be choosing things and habits. You might have developed these habits that are halting you from getting where you're going. In other words, if these habits were helping you, wouldn't you be where you want to be already? They're helping you. So how come you're not there? You have the help. They're not helping you. You only think they're helping you because it's comfortable to keep doing what we're doing. As humans, we don't like change. As humans, the change is painful, especially when it's something we determine we like. We determine makes us happy. We determine makes our life easier. Now it's really hard to change it. So what I'm saying is the ones in life that actually achieve what they want, there's a marriage in their own brain between success, getting what they want, and rationally evaluating everything they're doing and having that, the guts to change what they're doing that they don't like, to really look at it every day. In other words, it's like holding a mirror up. And this is sometimes therapy's helpful. And honestly, I'm a fan, but a lot of people don't have the money, don't have the time. But why shouldn't you get the benefit of the understanding that holding a mirror up to yourself is what therapy is? It's really allowing you to see and hear yourself talking and get to the deep roots of your problems. That's very similar to what I'm talking about. In other words, if you examine your behavioral patterns and look at them like this could be the reason, everything I'm doing could be the reason I'm not where I want to be. I'm not where I want to be because I'm unlucky. I'm not where I want to be because they get lucky and I don't get lucky. That's a loser's mentality. A winner's mentality is, what can I change? How do I get more horsepower out of this car? What can I tweak? And at all levels, this applies. Like specifically, you could be needing to change some habit that's wasting your time for 2 hours, or you could be on a very high pro level and you keep saying to yourself, I want to reorganize my patch base so that, everything's normaled right and I don't need to patch things in when I want to change stuff. And then if I just did that, I'd save 20 minutes every 30 minutes every mix. It could be something super specific. That's honing your car. That's tweaking your car to get more horsepower out of it. Is it not? So what I'm saying is this applies on all levels. It could be, like I said, the template. It could be reevaluating what you have going on your mix bus and deciding, do you really like all this stuff still? It's reevaluating every habit you've formed, whether it's the way you wake up and procrastinate before you work, like something I constantly did until I realized that if I just force myself to start working at all costs, in other words, I would wake up, brush my teeth, get dressed, go to work, then I start. And then as soon as I start, I know I'm not going to stop until I'm done. But if I allow myself any sort of leeway to watch something for whatever, and then I'll just do it after, as soon as that comes into play, I used to try to do anything, even healthy things, try to work out first. I would just take 2 hours, 3 hours to work out then. I would always just make it where I would procrastinate like crazy. So instead, I start immediately, because I know if I start immediately, I'll actually not stop till I'm done. And then during my breaks, I find the time to do the workouts. So in other words, I just had to start. Once I start, I have this urge to go back. But if I don't start, I will never start. So it's just, you got to learn who you are. You got to look at your habits. You got to see where you're wasting time. You got to also realize that the bad habits are so easily developed. When you're not looking, you'll have a bad habit. I'll give you a good example. I used to work out every day prior to making these videos every day. As soon as I started making videos every day, which started approximately 7-8 months ago, that's when it started, the amount of time I had diminished a lot. So working out sort of went on the back burner, and that upsets me to no end. But it's easier not to. So if I don't evaluate the fact that I don't want that to happen, I would never have started working out again. But because it was always bugging me that I wasn't, I would evaluate the behavioral pattern and be like, I gotta tweak my car to fit this in. How do I get this in? Because I am more productive when I do that. I feel better. I'm mentally stronger. So if I don't do that, everything else suffers. So you have to find what I need to cut out to get that in. And this is something that I think we can all learn from, because like I said, everybody pro level on down probably has a thing or two, at least, that they could look at and go, I know I like doing this. I know it's fun. I know I enjoy it. I know it makes me but do I need it? Can I cut it out? And realize if you really want something, whatever that is, to be somewhere you're not, You're making the choice to not get there by choosing the habits instead of choosing other habits that would actually get you where you're going. Like, I chose the habit to not work out. That started it to become a habit, even though my habit to work out was constant for a long time. It's easy to form the negative habits because your brain wants to be at rest. The way I look at it is like your heart, your soul, that wants to achieve things and it wants to be what it can. It knows its days are numbered. It knows all that. But there's a large part of you that's so utilitarian. It's like, if I could just rest, that's all I want to do is rest. That's all I want to do is do nothing. I'm not sure if everyone feels this way, but I notice that's the inner voice that's always talking to you saying, you shouldn't do it. It's scary. You shouldn't do it. There's a risk. You should sit on the couch. You should do nothing. We all experience this. The ones that become successful, it's not an accident. They learned how to take that voice and shove a sock in it and keep it moving. They learned that. So what I'm saying is I'm trying to give you what they already know, which is if you evaluate what you're doing rationally on a weekly basis, you can change the things that are hurting you and actually get where you're going. That's what I'm letting you know. Because the people that become successful, that never look at their rationale, like the rational approach to what they're doing and how could they make it better and what's hurting them, what do they like, what's a creature comfort they could do without, and what is it that isn't that they should be doing that they're not doing. If the people who get successful and don't do that, they don't have the longevity. They don't stay there. It's practically just luck or an accident, and then they lose it. Whereas the ones that figured out how to marry the rational aspect of fine-tuning their ability and getting the most out of their talent, the ones that fight that nonsense voice that's constantly telling you to do nothing, the ones that can do that successfully daily and realize the importance of that are the ones that make it. It's not an accident when people make it. And you're not unlucky if you haven't made it. You're probably just choosing things that are preventing you from getting there. And this is what I want you guys to do if you could. Throw something in the comments that's your thing that you specifically were holding on to that wasn't helping you. Something you struggled with. The thing that helped, that you had to break the chains of in order to get where you're going. Because I think we could all kind of be our own support system here. A lot of communities have their own support systems for stuff, but the mental aspect of what people do who are creative, we beat ourselves down. We pick habits that are super destructive. A lot of us have the talent coming out our ears, and yet we can't harness it and get the most out of the car. We're sitting there with a Ferrari, we're getting 100 horsepower out of the thing. We got 1,000 sitting there, and we're getting 100. It's like, get more out of what you have by harnessing this. And I think if you write something in the comments, I'm telling you, there's other people who are probably going to look for their problem in what you wrote. And then all of a sudden, you may be helping someone way more than you realize. So don't be afraid to share stuff. Put it in there. And in my opinion, you'll help a lot of people just by doing that. And I know it takes guts, and I know, it's not an easy thing to do. But if you've conquered anything, or even if you haven't and you're struggling with something, put it in there and watch the response you get. Because in my opinion, we got each other. We're like a family here. And we need to be able to talk about the things that hold us back to get past them. Because this is, I think, the creative people and of our ability to see things in multiple ways, that hurts us a lot if we let it. Turn it around. Allow that creative mind to actually look at what you could change in what you're doing to become successful. And it'll be hard. You'll have to climb out of pits. You'll be deep down in holes that your habits have put you in that you now have to fight to get out. And then I'm telling you, a month after you're out of it, the habit's gone for a month or two, you won't even remember you used to do it. The habit just disappears. The habit's like a faint memory. You remember when I used to need that and I used to do that? You remember that? It's crazy. That's what it'll be, almost like a laughing matter. Trust me. You'll be way better off. And it seems crazy at the time, but you got to start changing things if you want to change your life. If you want to change where you're at and get somewhere you're not, change the behavior. All right? Hope you dug it. Hit the like button. Subscribe if you haven't already. Evan Jaffe, Custom Cut Studios. You guys got this. Take it easy.